Welcome to Peaceworks, a series to help understand the drivers of conflict in order to build a peaceful world. Located in the Horn of Africa, Ethiopia is one of the most geopolitically significant countries on the continent. It is Africa's second most populous nation and serves as a strategic bridge between the Middle East and sub-Saharan Africa. Its geographic location near the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, one of the world's busiest maritime routes, positions Ethiopia as a critical player in regional trade, security, and diplomacy. Although landlocked, Ethiopia maintains close ties with neighbouring Djibouti, through which most of its imports and exports pass. This relationship ensures Ethiopia's continued relevance in maritime logistics, and any instability in Ethiopia can ripple across global shipping routes. Ethiopia is also the headquarters of the African Union, AU, making Addis Ababa a hub of continental diplomacy and governance. As a result, Ethiopia often mediates conflicts across Africa and represents African interests in international forums. The Nile River further enhances Ethiopia's geopolitical leverage. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, GERD, Africa's largest hydroelectric project, has heightened its influence over Nile Basin countries, particularly Egypt and Sudan, which depend heavily on Nile waters. The GERD has become a focal point of regional power dynamics and negotiations. Ethiopia's military strength, one of the most formidable in Africa, and its role in peacekeeping missions also add to its strategic weight. It contributes significantly to United Nations missions, especially in neighbouring South Sudan and Somalia. Finally, Ethiopia is increasingly a focus of global powers like the US, China, and the Gulf states, who seek influence in the Horn due to its proximity to the Middle East and critical shipping lanes. Ethiopia is not only a regional anchor but a key to broader geopolitical equations involving global trade, energy, and security. Ethiopia is Africa's second most populous nation, with an estimated population of approximately 132 million as of 2025. The country has experienced significant population growth with a youthful demographic profile. The median age is around 19.5 years. This youthful population presents both opportunities for economic growth and challenges in providing adequate education, employment, and healthcare services. In terms of human development, Ethiopia's HDI for 2024 places it in the low human development category and ranking it 108th out of 193 countries. This low ranking reflects persistent issues such as limited access to quality education, healthcare, and a low gross national income per capita. While there have been improvements over the years, the pace of development remains slow, and disparities between urban and rural areas are significant. Ethiopia's Fragile States Index score for 2024 is 98.1, indicating a high level of fragility compared to the global average of 64.56. This high score is attributed to factors such as internal conflicts, political instability, and economic challenges. The recent civil conflict in the Tigray region and tensions in other parts of the country have exacerbated these issues, leading to humanitarian crises and displacement of populations. The combination of a rapidly growing population, low human development indicators, and high fragility underscores the complex challenges Ethiopia faces. Ethiopia is one of the most ethnically diverse countries in Africa, home to over 80 ethnic groups, with the largest being the Oromo, Amhara, Tigray, and Somali. This diversity, while culturally rich, has played a central role in shaping the country's complex political and social dynamics, often contributing to instability. The current federal system, established in 1995, is based on ethnic federalism. It grants regional states autonomy along ethnic lines with the right to self-determination, including secession. While the structure was initially seen as a means to empower historically marginalized groups, it has also institutionalized divisions and fueled competition among ethnicities for political power and resources. Ethnic tensions have frequently erupted into violence. For instance, disputes between Oromo and Amhara communities and between Tigrayans and the federal government have led to mass displacement and deadly conflicts. The 2020-2022 Tigray War is a stark example of how ethnic politics can spiral into a national crisis. Moreover, ethnic-based politics have undermined national cohesion, with political parties and movements often aligned along ethnic lines. This has weakened the central government's ability to foster unity and implement inclusive national policies. At the same time, Ethiopia's ethnic profile offers potential for inclusive governance if managed equitably. A fairer balance of representation, protection of minority rights, and fostering cross-ethnic collaboration could help transform diversity into a source of resilience rather than conflict. Ultimately, the ethnic makeup of Ethiopia is both a defining strength and a persistent fault line. The country's future stability hinges on its ability to move beyond ethnic rivalries and build a cohesive national identity that respects diversity while promoting shared values and inclusive development. There are 6 pivotal events in Ethiopia's recent history that have impacted on its current stability. The Eritrean-Ethiopian War, spanning from 1998 to 2000, was a devastating conflict triggered by border disputes, particularly over the town of Badme. The war resulted in approximately 100,000 casualties and significant economic disruption for both nations. Despite the Algiers Agreement in 2000, which aimed to resolve the conflict, tensions persisted for years. The war entrenched mutual distrust, diverted resources from development, and left a legacy of militarization in the region. This prolonged hostility hindered regional cooperation and economic integration, contributing to ongoing instability in the Horn of Africa. The 2005 general elections in Ethiopia were initially seen as a step toward democratization, with high voter turnout and active opposition participation. However, allegations of electoral fraud led to mass protests. The government's response was severe. Security forces killed approximately 193 protesters and detained over 30,000 individuals. This crackdown highlighted the ruling party's intolerance for dissent and set a precedent for suppressing political opposition. The events of 2005 eroded public trust in the electoral process and contributed to a climate of political repression that persists, undermining efforts toward democratic governance. Beginning in 2015, widespread protests erupted in the Oromia region against the government's plan to expand Addis Ababa into surrounding Oromo lands. The demonstrations, rooted in broader grievances over political marginalization and human rights abuses, were met with violent repression. The sustained unrest led to the resignation of Prime Minister Hailemariam Desalegn in 2018 and the rise of Abiy Ahmed. This transition marked a significant political shift with promises of reform and inclusivity. However, the underlying ethnic tensions and demands for genuine autonomy remain unresolved, continuing to challenge Ethiopia's stability. Upon assuming office in 2018, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed initiated sweeping reforms, including releasing political prisoners, lifting bans on opposition groups, and liberalizing the economy. Notably, he signed a peace agreement with Eritrea, ending 2 decades of hostility, a move that earned him the Nobel Peace Prize in 2019. These actions generated optimism for Ethiopia's democratic transition. However, the rapid pace of change also unsettled entrenched power structures and exacerbated ethnic tensions. While the reforms opened political space, they also led to increased competition among ethnic groups, contributing to new conflicts and complicating the path to lasting stability. In November 2020, conflict erupted between the federal government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, leading to a brutal war marked by widespread atrocities, including mass killings and sexual violence. The war displaced millions and created a severe humanitarian crisis. Despite a peace agreement in 2022, tensions remain high and the region continues to experience instability. The conflict has strained Ethiopia's economy, international relations and social fabric, highlighting the deep divisions within the country and posing significant challenges to national unity and recovery. In 2025, Ethiopia completed the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam on the Blue Nile, aiming to boost electricity production and drive economic growth. While the dam promises substantial benefits for Ethiopia, it has heightened tensions with downstream countries, particularly Egypt and Sudan, over water rights and usage. The lack of a comprehensive agreement on the dam's operation has led to diplomatic strains and concerns over regional stability. Domestically, the GERD symbolizes national pride and development aspirations, but also reflects the government's assertive approach to regional issues, which may have long-term implications for Ethiopia's foreign relations and internal cohesion. These events collectively illustrate the complex interplay between Ethiopia's pursuit of development, democratic aspirations, and the persistent challenges of ethnic tensions and regional disputes. Ethiopia's internal instability stems from a complex interplay of ethnic, political, and economic factors. Key domestic actors, primarily ethnically aligned political groups, regional militias, and armed insurgent movements, play pivotal roles in destabilizing the country, each driven by distinct objectives. Ethiopia's internal destabilization is not driven by a single actor, but by a constellation of ethnically and politically motivated groups. Their common denominator is a rejection of the status quo and a demand for either decentralization or greater autonomy. The Tigray People's Liberation Front, or TPLF, once the dominant force in Ethiopia's ruling coalition, EPRDF, lost its central power following Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's rise in 2018. The TPLF's interests revolve around regaining influence and preserving the autonomy of the Tigray region under Ethiopia's ethnic federalist framework. After launching attacks on federal military bases in 2020, the TPLF engaged in a full-scale war with federal forces. Though a peace agreement was signed in 2022, the TPLF remains a symbol of ethnic regionalism and resistance against centralization. Their actions have deeply destabilized northern Ethiopia and strained national unity. The Oromo Liberation Army, or OLA, is a breakaway faction of the once banned Oromo Liberation Front. Operating mainly in the Oromia region, the OLA claims to fight for the rights and self-determination of the Oromo people, Ethiopia's largest ethnic group. The OLA accuses the federal government of continued marginalization and their armed insurgency targets, government forces, and rival ethnic groups. Their objective is greater political autonomy and potentially independence, though internal divisions cloud their strategic vision. Their actions have led to hundreds of deaths and mass displacements, particularly in Western Oromia. Many ethnic-based militias have emerged or reactivated in recent years, including Fano, Amhara, Gumuz in Benishangul Gumuz, and various Somali region groups. These militias often act independently of the federal army and seek to protect or expand their community's territory and rights. The Fano militia, for example, aims to defend Amhara claims to disputed regions such as Wolkate and Raya, leading to confrontations with Tigrayan and Oromo actors. These militias perpetuate cycles of revenge, land disputes, and inter-ethnic violence, making peace-building efforts increasingly difficult. Several legally operating political parties, especially those with strong ethnic bases, for example, the Oromo Federalist Congress and National Movement of Amhara, also contribute to political instability. While many are non-violent, their rhetoric and public mobilization often heighten ethnic grievances. Some factions within these parties may tacitly support armed resistance or reject national reconciliation processes if they feel marginalized or ignored. Youth groups, especially in Oromia and Amhara regions, have been at the forefront of mass protests since 2015. These groups are often leaderless but highly mobilized, demanding political reform, economic opportunities, and ethnic justice. While not always armed, their involvement has led to mass unrest, road blockades, and clashes with security forces. Their grievances stem from unemployment, lack of representation, and state violence. Ethiopia's strategic position in the Horn of Africa and its political turbulence have attracted significant attention and involvement from regional and international actors. Ethiopia's internal conflicts are compounded by external actors pursuing strategic, security, or geopolitical interests. While not all intend destabilization, their involvement often aggravates tensions, making peaceful resolution more complex and urgent. Egypt is perhaps the most vocal regional opponent of Ethiopia's Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, GERD, on the Blue Nile. Cairo views the dam as a threat to its vital water supply, which originates primarily from the Nile. Despite years of diplomatic negotiations, tensions remain high. Egypt has leveraged regional diplomacy, international lobbying, and threats of military action to pressure Ethiopia. While it has not engaged in direct conflict, Egypt's political and economic maneuvers, including alliances with Sudan and support for anti-GERD narratives, undermine Ethiopia's regional standing and development ambitions. Egypt's main interest is securing its water rights under colonial-era treaties and maintaining strategic dominance in the Nile Basin. Sudan has a complex relationship with Ethiopia, characterized by both cooperation and conflict. While Sudan initially supported GERD, its position shifted due to border clashes with Ethiopian forces and concerns about the dam's safety. The dispute over the Al Fashaga border region has fueled instability along their shared frontier. Sudan's transitional government has also used tensions with Ethiopia to galvanize domestic support amid internal political fragility. Although Sudan's motivations are rooted in national security and resource competition, its confrontations with Ethiopia exacerbate regional instability. Eritrea played a controversial role in the Tigray conflict by deploying its troops in support of Ethiopian federal forces. While Eritrea and Ethiopia signed a peace agreement in 2018, their alliance is rooted in a shared opposition to the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF. Eritrean involvement in Tigray drew widespread condemnation for human rights abuses, contributing significantly to the war's humanitarian toll. President Isaias Afwerki's regime seeks to neutralize TPLF influence and assert Eritrea's relevance in regional politics. However, its intervention further destabilized northern Ethiopia and damaged Ethiopia's international reputation. The UAE and other Gulf nations have vested interests in Ethiopia's political trajectory. The UAE provided military drones and logistical support to the Ethiopian government during the Tigray War. These actions were driven by broader regional objectives, such as countering Turkish and Qatari influence and securing Red Sea maritime routes. While the UAE's involvement may have temporarily strengthened the Ethiopian military, it contributed to the escalation of the conflict, complicating peace processes and drawing Ethiopia deeper into Gulf rivalries. The United States and the European Union have criticized human rights abuses in Ethiopia and suspended aid during the Tigray conflict. While ostensibly promoting peace and accountability, these moves have sometimes been perceived by the Ethiopian government as biased or punitive, pushing Addis Ababa to seek alternative allies like China and Russia. Donald Trump's presidency deprioritizes multilateral diplomacy and favors transactional foreign policy. His administration sided with Egypt during the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam dispute, even suspending aid to Ethiopia in 2020, which undermined US-Ethiopia relations and emboldened Egypt's stance. Nevertheless, Abiy's Ethiopia is opportunist and adept at trading its geopolitical assets and may well reach a deal with the US. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to hear of new content. We'd love to hear your comments.